Check 1 2 1 2. Okay, okay. I see the audio meter there now. It should start to come in. I don't know why it has the audio meter there and not on here on me. Let me add an audio. Can I add audio to this? Check 1 2 There we go. Okay, okay. I see the audio meter there now. It should start to come in. So, all right, y'all. So I at least got that going, but let me just see if I can switch. Let me add audio. Can I add audio to this? Which one has the audio? Yeah, all right. I'm back. We gonna get into the word. We gonna get into the game. We gonna get into the game. Give me just a second. So, all right, y'all. So at least got that going, but I wonder why. Let me just see if I can switch. Cause all right, for this live stream, I would just have to leave this window up. Apparently, and man, give me just 2 more seconds, y'all. There should be a way to add audio to this particular. Let's see, video settings, audio input. All right, for this live stream, I would just have to leave this window up. Okay, let's do this. Audio input. Let me change the audio input off of that. Okay, I got it. I got it. I got to change the audio input on this one. Audio input. Or let me take it off of this one actually. Okay, let's do this. Audio let's input. Do let me change the audio input off of that. Okay, I got it. I got it. I don't want to have to choose any of these to be honest. On this one. Unmute myself so I can hear me. And then I'm going to change the video settings on this one to be the black magic there. And then we're gonna change this one over here to be. See, I'm getting it figured out, y'all. Your boy got it figured out. And now I can make myself back big by getting rid of that. Okay, okay. All right, all right. All right, all right. I'm here. I'm here, y'all. We here. We in the game. Let me move that back over. I got us. It's an odd. I'm at an odd angle because my wide lens is missing. Not missing. I grabbed the wrong bag. Long story short, blah blah blah. I got the other camera bag, and it doesn't have the lenses that fit this camera. So kind of have it as a upper kind of angle, but it's kind of a cool look. Your boy look pretty good if I do say so myself. But how y'all doing? Y'all looking good too. Grand Rising. Let me look. I got people right here. Grand Rising or Earth. What's up, Flacco? That's crew out. Okay, okay. I thought that was you to change your what you call it. Historical Aboriginal. What's happening? Let's see. Oh, you said you hear me. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. Yeah. On the I have y'all look on my phone on TikTok, looking at my iPhone. I mean, looking at my cell phone. I mean, my MacBook screen. While I also am YouTube. I'm live on YouTube and I'm live on Twitter right now. So three things live right now. What up, Colony Bay? What's happening with you? What's happening, everybody? Just in case, what's happening? So, yeah. So we here, y'all. I'm back on my good setup. Even early in the morning, your boy got fresh. Okay, even early in the morning, your boy got fresh. So, I'm here. I'm back. And we're gonna dive into the Dred Scott case. Yes, again, right? I've been on this for some days, and each time I get started, we ain't even really got to be able to go through the entire case to a degree. And I don't even know if we'll get through it today because every time I go through it, I find shit, and we keep moving things, and goalposts get moved, and it's like, okay, we gonna get this figured out. You know what I'm saying? Let me get this a little bit closer for my Twitter folks. Well, I guess I got to keep it back a little bit so that way y'all can kind of see when I pull up my iPad, which I'm about to do now. So appreciate y'all coming in. Let me just see if I can see if my chat over here. Oh, okay. I got a chat over here. Crew right over there also. Were you on YouTube? On the YouTube, that's what's up. Jackson Harlow, what's up? He over there on the Twitter stream. Okay, I like this. Joe Redskin, what's happening? Love the work you've been putting in. I appreciate that. So now I get to interact with everybody now. That's what's up. I can interact with my Twitter folks. I can interact with my YouTube folks. I can interact with my TikTok folks. Um, I will likely miss something, so don't be mad at me. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting used to the new setup. We gonna get into the game, okay? But I'm gonna put the chat to the. I wonder if I can move this chat to a certain spot to where I can see y'all at the same time. Well, you know what? That's not. That's this actually ain't bad because making that window a little bit smaller for my TikTok folks, y'all can actually see when I do pull up like this right here. When I pull up my iPad, you'll be able to see it on full view. And if I switch it to my iPad being full view and put me down here, which in many cases we're going to be doing. So let's talk about this Dred Scott case. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? How y'all doing coming in this morning? You two look better, fam. Not gonna lie, I bet. Yeah, at some point I just reapplied for the TikTok through this app through Restream today. So hopefully it'll put it through and I can y'all will get the full experience on the TikTok as well. So yeah, that's what I would love to do. Chief, you live. What's happening, Jackson? All right, man. So this is not what we're talking. We're not talking about melanin. We're really talking now. As for those who don't know, we left off talking about that we learned that there was a Civil Rights Act of 1866. Okay. Now, most of us, and I do like this. Y'all be able to see me and see. I like this a lot better. I just got to stop being lazy, y'all. I mean, it takes a minute to get this set up, but once I have it set up, it don't take long. It's just really me being lazy because I don't have to get all dressed up and all that extra shit, in order to do this. But I'm here, so I like this. I'm gonna have to do this a lot more. So okay, Civil Rights Act of 1866. Most people didn't know. I didn't know there was a Civil Rights Act of 1866 because we think about the Civil Rights Act of 19. If you was to Google, look, Civil Rights Act date for those who are new. Since I'm now on my Twitter and YouTube, may not they haven't seen this. I've been for some of you. Let me just say this to y'all, and my apologies to the Twitter fam and the YouTube fam because I haven't been posting like I should. I've been going live on TikTok, to be honest with you. I've been going live on TikTok and I haven't been posting the live streams like I need to. But here we go. So I say that to say because there's a lot of things you all have missed as far as the Dred Scott decision and what it was about and the truth about it. So I might have to go. I'm probably going to start somewhat fresh to kind of give everybody an update on what's going on here. So okay, Dred Scott. Let me just do this before we Okay, so Dred Scott, right? Um yeah, I'm just making sure my audio stays up. Okay, yeah. So the Dred Scott decision. Now, it was one of those things where I didn't know what it was. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people didn't. And when you talk to people, they really kind of spit random facts. But one thing that I did find interesting, and I can't play the clip yet because I haven't figured out how to make the clips play and get the audio to where I can hear it with you all. So I'm not gonna play video clips, but I had a video clip that I had played on my live stream, and it was Dr. Umar, and he was talking to, like, he was talking about the case, and I also remember hearing Tariq talk about the case, and I remember maybe one other person talking about the case. And the main thing I'm getting to with that is these people, the Pan Africanists, the Pan Africanists, seem to act like they know quite a bit about the case. Now, of course, Tariq is not a Pan Africanist, but technically, if you're trying to tie us back to some kind of African ancestry, you may not be a Pan Africanist like you want us all to come together in unity, but you're trying to tie us to some kind of African ancestry. And that's a pivotal reason for this Dred Scott case. I'm just like, wait a minute, how come y'all know so many of the talking points, but you haven't really looked into the case for real, for real? And how do I know they haven't looked into the case for real? Because of the talking points. And we're gonna get into those we're gonna get into those talking points, but I want you to notice that right here it says July 2nd, 1964 is when the Civil Rights Act of 1964, you know, the one from your boy Martin Luther the King, right? uh that would be his act. Okay, so, or not his act, but you know, the Civil Rights Act that came out during there. But most of us don't know that there was a Civil Rights Act, I didn't know, that came out almost 100 years prior. And my thing with that is, when whenever I see in history, especially the 1800s during reconstruction, mid 1800s, whenever I see terms that have been used and the definitions have changed, or they've added another act and it's the same name of the last act but it makes you think it's something different, it's always like there was an Indian citizen, just for instance, there was an Indian Citizenship Day. I'll show you real fast. Indian Citizenship Day. Let me put this on the main real quick. So there was an Indian Citizenship Day, right? Real quick. And you would look at it in the newspapers and you would see stuff like this: Hampton Institute Indian Citizenship Day exercises the coming Hampton meetings in Boston. The public exercises the commemorated, I'm sorry, Indian Citizenship Day at Hampton Institute, which is Hampton University and HBCU, right? And people say these HBCUs used to be Indian schools first. That's why they was probably celebrating Indian Citizenship Day. But okay, on the ninth instrument, though not noble because of the presence of the distinguished visitors, were nevertheless unusually interesting. A set of literary exercises is not the natural medium of expression for the company. Actually, I thought this was going to be the one to tell us why. So let me go to another one. But this is Hampton Institute that was celebrated in 1899, right there. Okay, right? And then if we go to another one in 1898, a year before, they was also celebrating Hampton Institute, right? Indian Citizenship Day, right? But down here, this actually, I think, is this the one? Let me see. Yeah, this is the one that actually says it. So it says Newport News, Virginia, February, the 11th annual celebration of the Hampton Institute this afternoon of the signing of the Dawes Bill, which gave Indians the right of American citizenship, was a notable event. Now, I'm not going to harp on this for too long, but I just want you to realize that in the 1800s, an HBCU was celebrating Indian Citizenship Day. But when you Google, when is Indian Citizenship Day? Well, it'll tell you that Indian Citizenship Day is commemorating 1924. The American Indian Citizenship Day is on June 2nd, 1924. Now, How come there's a start of an Indian Citizenship Act in 1924, but there was I don't know why those balloons came up like that. I guess if you do something like that, it makes balloons happen. That was weird and corny. But um, but Indian Citizenship Act. But they were already celebrating Indian Citizenship Day in the late 1800s at the HBCU. Why would it change? Now, we're not going to go into that. That's its own thing. I just want you to understand that typically when you see a bill like this Civil Rights Bill of 1890, let me go back to it. Like the Civil Rights Bill of 1866, and then you see another one later, the Civil Rights Bill of 1964. What you should be doing, right, is you should be taking both of them together, reading the two, and asking questions of why did they change and why did you make another bill? What's the difference? These kind of questions, okay? Because typically it's trickery. Why would they use the same name for a bill later? That means if it says something completely different, especially if it says something completely different, right? You don't need a bill that says the same thing if it says the same thing, right? Obviously, it's not going to say something that's not going to say the same thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't come at it with a new bill. They would just reference said old bill, right? So that's not what they do. That's not what they do. So that's we found out about this bill because now why is this important? We were watching, which I'm not going to be able to pull up the video clip to play the audio. Well, I won't be able to hear it. You all might be able to hear it, and we can try. I'll give it a try, but I won't waste a whole lot of time trying to get the clip to play. Um, let's see if I can find the damn clip. But in Congress today, during the birthright citizenship uh, debate that's going on and on in the House, Senate, wherever it's going on at, they're referencing that particular bill of 1866. That's the only reason why I knew about it. I don't think you all are able to hear that. Let me see. Video settings, audio input. Hmm. All right. So I'm gonna have to figure out how this app, because I really love it because it allows me to stream on multiple platforms besides me using OBS by itself, whatever. I think OBS might be able to do it, or really I can use OBS and kind of stream it through Restream, and then I'll be able to do the things that I normally like to do. Because typically I like to have my little banner right here, my little Samuel like Ali Kohio name in black and gold and all that. You know what I'm saying? But right now I don't got all that in this app. But I'm gonna try to figure this out, man. Anyways, so this was the guy that's in the House, Senate, whatever the fuck, and they're in Congress right now, and they're going over the whole birthright citizenship thing, and in it he referenced the 1866 Act as a referencing point, talking about the birthright citizenship situation. Okay. And that's the only reason why we kind of knew it existed. And then when you think about the language and the timing of it, one, okay, so one, in the government, both all of these are government source for the people that don't see it at the very top. I can't really zoom in to the very top, but at the very top it says it's a government source. It's from title.librarycongress.gov. Now this is from the librarycongress.gov, and it's a message from the President of the United States returning the bill of S number 61, the protect. Now, what I want y'all to know is that when I was searching for the bill that he was talking about in government records, it was hard to find. And after a while, this came up before any other things. And I thought I had it with this. And what's crazy about this is it has language about Africans. In fact, it actually includes all of our so-called uh, what do you call it? A reclassification, not so-called, but all of our reclassifications within the actual, but this ain't the bill. I was about to say within the bill, but this ain't the actual bill. I thought it was at first, but this is actually just a message about the bill. But it was one of the main things in the Library of Congress. I had to go over to Congress.gov, another government source. And for other people who were here yesterday, I went through the National Archives.gov, Library of Congress.gov, one other some.gov, and then I had to go in through Congress.gov. So imagine how hard it is sometimes to find the original. That's when I actually found, oh, this is the real bill. And in this bill, when we do a control F, and try to look for. We'll do it right now. Let's see. I'll show you because I got both of them saved over here. This is the full document of this one. Okay. And then this is the full document of the Civil Rights Act. Okay. Now, in the document for the Civil Rights Bill, or I mean, that's not what it's called, but this message about it, if you do a find on page and put Africa, you will find stuff like this. Some about persons of African blood, and we'll read this part, this section here shortly. But when you do the same thing on the actual bill itself, which is the one that is binding the people in court, not any messages about it, not any fluff. I don't give a fuck if the president of the United States sent all kind of messages to everybody about it, nigga. This is what matters, okay? And in this, when you type in Africa, hit my I don't know why it's not pulling up the damn search. Yeah, that was being weird. When you type in Africa, as you can see already typed in, there are zero results. Okay? Let's say what if you type in black? Zero results. What if you type in Negro? Zero results. Okay? Oh, my damn. Dang, I need to get that fixed. Um what else was that? Negro, black, colored, that ain't in there. Okay, in the bill. Mulatto, we ain't even got to do all the way, right? Mulatto ain't gonna be in there. But Indian, you will find in the bill. Okay, keep that in mind. It was Earth that brought that up. I think it was on this one. But what I said, what about color? Oh, I just typed it in. Yep, color's not in there. Indian is in there. Talking about the Indian, excluding Indian not tax. Let's read the section actually right here. And this is really at the top of the bill. Be it enacted by the Senate of the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled that all persons born in the United States and not subject to any foreign power, excluding Indians, not taxed. Notice there was a comma, excluding Indians, not taxed, are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States. That's 1866. So they're saying excluding Indians, not taxed. So I don't know if they're talking about excluding the Indians and also excluding people who are not taxed, or excluding the Indians who are not taxed. And the reason why I say that is because there's a comma there, okay? And the dude in Congress says he put the phrase together. He says it was excluding Indians not taxed. And in that situation, an Indian not taxed was either a rich or a poor Indian, kind of like today. You are, if you make less money, under 35,000 a year or whatever it is, you are not taxed. You are a citizen Indian who is not taxed. Or if you make a certain money, you would be taxed. That was his case about a rich and poor Indian. As I look at the comma there, I'm not 100% sure. Is it excluding Indians and excluding not tax people, or is it excluding Indian not tax? I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna have to, that's one of, and see, that's one of those debates that they have in like on this like case law and stuff. That what like when they say every word and punctuation, everything is important. I believe that, and that's why I'm harping on this whole thing that African is not utilized in this language. It doesn't, and the reason why I'm going into that so harshly is because when you look at it, we'll get back to that. But when you look at it right here, where they talk about and notice they talk about it pretty quick. This is the start of the document, and it's a decently long document, not terribly long. But they quickly start off talking about some Africans, and the thing that to me, what that shows is what's fresh on your mind is talking about these folks. That's what's fresh on your mind, and everything else is kind of subsequent. But okay, so it says, I regret that the bill which has passed both the House of Congress. I'm gonna put myself up here. Well, no, y'all can. Let me hold on. Let me see. Well, yeah, whatever. I regret that the bill that has passed both the House of Congress, so that bill that I just read that passed both the House of Congress, both houses, I'm sorry, of Congress, entitled an act to protect all persons in the United States in their civil rights and furnish the means of their vindication, contains provisions which I cannot approve consistently with my sense of duty to the whole people and my obligations to the Constitution of the United States. I am therefore constrained to return it to the Senate, the House in which it originated, with my objections to it becoming law. So really, I get what this is now. The bill came out first, and then the president is wanting to veto said bill based upon these particular things. Now, notice the bill said everybody should be able to do X, Y, Z, whatever, right? But also it specifies it's not everybody. Like I don't think it's talking about people coming over just having babies and whatever. But we'll get to that. But possibly. But it says right here, it says, by the first section of the bill, all persons born in the United States are subject to any and not subject. I'm sorry, and not subject to any foreign power, excluding Indians not taxed. Notice how in this one he put it in without a comma in between. So mm, I guess, right? Even though that's not in the bill would be what Congress would be looking at if you took this to like a court and like if whoever deals with that particular kind of whatever. But okay, so but he says excluding Indians not taxed are declared to be citizens of the United States. This provision comprehends the Chinese of the Pacific states, Indians subject to taxation, the people called gypsies, as well as the entire race designated blacks, people of color, Negroes, mulattoes, and persons of African blood. Okay? Now, I didn't say anything about that. Okay? Now, and nobody really talked about us just being having African blood, but that's starting to be a particular talking point at this time. Let me see what y'all saying down here. Designated not true. Let me move this over. I haven't been seeing my chat. My bad. What's up, Red Sunflower? Just not seeing you in here. I had to pull my chat back up here for y'all so I can see y'all. All right. So yeah. So of the African blood. So it says every individual of these races born in the United States is by the bill made a citizen of the United States. It does not purport to declare or confer any other right of citizenship than federal citizenship. Now that's important because what is citizenship versus what is federal citizenship? Now, a lot of y'all haven't seen the video. I remember the live stream that I was doing the days before, but that's why I say I could get far off in the weeds with this because we ain't even got to the Dred Scott case, and just me explaining this because now I really want to show you what citizenship meant in 1797 in both the dictionaries and in law dictionaries, while also looking at what citizenship means in around the 1860s in law dictionaries, and as well as in the late 1800s to 1900s law dictionaries because you want to see the changes because what you'll find is that citizenship only meant a free man, an inhabitant of a landmass, basically. It didn't have all these other judicial or yeah, jurisdictional or allegiance kind of things tied to citizenship. So if you know that when you read this and it says they're not giving you any other right of citizenship but federal citizenship, what they're literally telling you is they're not giving you the ability to be a free man, only the ability to be a free man under the federal government, meaning they're over you. They are, you know, you have allegiance under their corporation, under their jurisdiction. But if you didn't know what citizenship, you just read that as like what do you mean by any other citizenship? If you're on this landmass, what other citizenship would it be? At the time you could say you could be a citizenship of a tribe, but that's not necessarily what they're referring to right here. But okay, let's see. It says it does not purport to give these classes of persons any status as citizens of states. It doesn't purport to give you a status as a free man of a state. You are a citizen of the federal government. Okay, except that which may result from their status as citizens of the United States. As I just said, you're not going to be a citizen, free man of the states. You can only be a citizen of the United States according to what he's trying to say in that bill. We would have to read the bill to make sure that's true because he already introduced African languages and certain things that were not in the bill. Okay. And that's really not that he said that it was in the bill. It's just that he's trying to call our race, our people, people who have a complexion like ours, even though, it is what it is. Them people don't look the same. They're just trying to conflate that. And it's like the beginning stages of the propaganda as well as solidifying it within the law. Not only because that's the whole thing. Like the Dred Scott case comes in 1857. Before this, you need a case on the books to have some type of law that explains some about African descent not being citizens. Okay, that was the thing that does it, but it did it in a although it did it. Let me do this because I'm talking a lot. Put that one there. Let me make it a little bit bigger though. Well, no, I'll do it like that. But lost my train of thought. Dred Scott case. Oh yeah. So the Dred Scott case is one of the first things that they need a case on the books in order to start to reclassify you on paper and Xing you out as an Indian if you accept this terminology, if you admit this terminology. What am I getting at? So 1857, everybody's pressing. That's like the main talking point. Everybody keeps pressing the courts, the courts, the courts. We need y'all to come up with a solution to the slavery question. Blah, 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 blah. And I kept wondering, why are they pressing the court to come up with this slavery question for the solution? Now, they would say it's because it's finally going to solve it for the North and the South or whatever. They said that's what led to the whole Civil War. It's kind of the same little talking point. But if you know law and precedents, and when you read that particular, I hate to not say stuff and not pull stuff up. Uh, if you read what it says on the actual thing itself, actual Dred Scott case itself, it says that because he admitted that he was an African, that is why he lost his case because an African is not a citizen of the United States. Uh, right here. Let me go right here. The plaintiff, having admitted by his demurrer to the admitted, notice admitted, okay? Not that it's a fact. Not the plaintiff is a nigga, right? No, the plaintiff admitted that he was something. He said it, right? Okay, he admitted by his demurrer to the plea and abatement that his ancestors were imported from Africa and sold as slaves. He is not a citizen of the state of Missouri according to the Constitution of the United States and was not entitled to sue in that character. Like he's acting like he's a whole nother character. Okay, I'm not an Indian now. I'm an African because I've accepted your propaganda. So now I'm walking around here like an African character, wearing goddamn dashikis and shit, yelling at niggas on the corner and shit. Y'all know how they do. And I'm going into court acting like I'm trying to sue. But that now I'm exaggerating, but that's basically by by his wording, that's what they're trying to get him on, and they dismissed the case based on jurisdiction. Now, if you actually read the case, that's not what he sued for. And he never admitted to being a slave. In fact, when you look at newspaper clippings, there's a certain one right here that I got saved here that it'll tell you right here. Let me make it big, actually. Let me just do this. The plea is in this red. The plea does not show Dred Scott to be a slave. Okay. Now, when I first read that, I was like, what do they mean? Right? What do they mean it didn't show him to be a slave? Now, you can read the case on the website, or you can do what I did and go to the other government site, right? Archives.gov, and read the actual handwritten manuscript of the case. What's going to be more real? This, which is handwritten and preserved since 1857, or whatever the hell somebody just typed up on a government website. I'm gonna go by this. Now I'm saying that to say that in his plea, as I read through several pages, let me pull it up bigger for y'all. All right. So as I read through several pages of this plea, I can't say it. We're gonna get into what the case was really about because some of my people on TikTok world know what the case was about, but some of the people on the other on my YouTube and Twitter world wouldn't know because I haven't been posting. My bad. You know what I'm saying? Your boy's trying to get better. But what was the case really about? What were they really talking about? Well, I'm gonna tell you like this is completely different from what the hell they say. Let's dive into just some of the specifics on the beginning of this case or the plea. What is the plea? Notice this. Now this looks official. This is what you call official. Not only is it like some preserved thing, but they got handwritten shit on there. They done, you know what I'm saying? I love shit like this. That's when I know I'm reading the right shit. Cause I hate researching shit stuff and reading things that are just propaganda about it because it may be a long document and I done sat here and wasted a day or two reading through it and then come to find out, oh man, that wasn't even the original, man. What the hell, you know? So I always try to find that original, man. I don't like to waste time. But it's also good to hear the other sentiments of other people writing later because then you get to know what's changed, like the game of telephone. Is it changed like a game of telephone, just not really purposely, but just because it's just it just kind of slightly changes through time, or was it purposely changed as propaganda, as to be used as propaganda, I should say, not as propaganda. So let's look at the case because let me just say this last thing: what they would say about the case, and I can't pull up any video so y'all can hear it directly. I'm trying to think if there's a way for my YouTube people. Now I could play some for my TikTok folks; they'll be able to hear it, but because I'm running that off of my phone right now. But hmm. I was about to be like, if I ran my audio, is there audio in? Oh, those are both audio outs. No. Well, either way, even if I try to run the audio, every time I have two audio sources selected on here, the motherfucking app goes haywire. So either way, so I can't do that. But long story short, the sentiment and the talking points around it is that he was suing for his freedom. He was a slave. He was brought from one state from the South, taken up north to Illinois, as his so-called master Emerson was on a, and that whole Emerson story that was his master prior. I gotta, man, I just it's so many things, man. I think that's all fake. But long story short, they said he was a slave of Emerson. Then Emerson took him down to Missouri, and while in Missouri, he was free because he was No, while in the, no, he took him up to Illinois. Illinois, my bad. He went from some state like Virginia or something up to Illinois. And while he was in Illinois, he became free supposedly because it was free to live up there or against the law to have slavery, right? And then from there, his after like a year or so, him and his master go to Missouri. He was like in the army or something supposedly, and apparently he got sold or something. There's this thing, which is a bunch of convoluted BS. He gets sold, and now this other dude has him, and yeah, the dude is saying, but now like the dude has him as a slave, and Dred Scott says that hey, because I was in Illinois and I was already free, I'm already a free man, so I should still be free. And they was like, well, no, we brought your ass back down here to the South. Your slavery laws don't follow, their laws don't follow where you go. So the whole thing is about can a slave law follow you from state to state? Almost like, just think about it. Almost like can your pew pew laws, your the licensing to pew pew, can that follow you from state to state? Okay, that's the basics of what they try to say this was. But little do they know, not little do they know. I think I know that they know in this propaganda, the case had nothing to do with freedom at all. They literally said that. Let me plug this phone in before it dies on my folks in TikTok land. I don't want to do that. And also, I need to charge my damn. My bad, but so the case is about. They say he's suing for his freedom. That's the whole thing about this case. He's suing for his freedom. Okay. Well, when you look at the case, not once did he was suing for his freedom. In fact, just to spoil the beans as we get into this, spoil the beans, spoil the story, spill the beans, whatever. Um, he was suing for lost wages for $3,000 for being assaulted by this white man. Him, his wife, and his daughters, and he acted like he was gonna imprison them and he had them held for like 6 hours, and that was it. That was it. He had them in hell for 6 hours. Nobody was a slave. He never said he was a slave, but this guy, the guy later on in his defense, excuse me, in his defense, said, "Hey man, that was my slave. That's all that was. Yeah, yeah. I only put my hands on him enough to restrain him as he was my slave." But why would Dred Scott say, "I'm suing your ass because you assaulted me and my family, and you held us for 6 hours with your arms and with his pew pew, as it will show, and I'm hitting you for $3,000 in lost wages for the business that I lost." Let's read, okay? So this is a transcription of what's over here, okay? It says the plaintiff lost and was deprived of the society, comfort, and assistance of his wife. Hold on, wait a minute. Is this the first page? Let me pull up the actual case so I can get to the first page. Okay, I hope I got it up. Yep, there we go. I love shit like that. Shit come out looking like this, like crinkled up paper and shit. I love that. And when it looked like somebody spilled a coffee stain on that bitch, I love that. I love that shit, man. Okay, let's get to the case. The transcription is available. Okay. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So now this is it starts off with the plea from Dred Scott against F.A. Sanford defendant, okay? In the Missouri district. It says, hold up, let me move it up some. Be it remembered that therefore to wit on the second day, this is just this first paragraph just talks about where the courts happen. I'm going to read that. And we'll go down here to where it actually starts. Let me zoom out some. Let me move me over if I can to show that part because I can't move it over. Or can I? Hold up. Nah. Let me move myself over here real quick. That's what's up. I was about to say, how am I gonna do that? But I remembered it was like that. Okay. Uh, now y'all can see it. It says Dred Scott of St. Louis in the state of Missouri and a citizen of the state of Missouri complains of John F.A. Sanford of the city of New York and a citizen of the state of New York in a plea of trespass for the defendant heretofore, to wit, on the first day of January AD 1853 at St. Louis in the county of St. Louis and state of Missouri with force of arms. Okay, so let's say that sentence again without the in between shit. Dred Scott complains of John F.A. Sanford of the city of New York with the force of arms assaulted the plaintiff and without law or right held him a slave and imprisoned him for the space of 6 hours. 6 hours. Okay? Right there for those who don't see it. So 6 hours ain't long enough to claim that a nigga owned you as a slave. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But let's keep going, okay? It says, and more than and there did threaten, he threatened to beat the plaintiff and to hold him imprisoned and restrained of his liberty. So by means of such threats, the plaintiff was put in fear and could not attend to his business, and thereby lost great gain and profits, which he, let's go to the next page. Imagine me reading this first time, like, nigga, what? This ain't got nothing to do with freedom. 6 hours, what? Right? And it says, and otherwise might have made in the prosecution of his business, to wit, $2,500 and other airings to the plaintiff then and there did against the peace and to the damage of the plaintiff $3,000. And also for the defendant heretofore the first day of January AD 1853 with force of arms at St. Louis aforesaid in assault did make on Harriet Scott. So the same guy made an assault also on Harriet Scott, then and still the wife of the plaintiff. And then and there did imprison said Harriet and hold her as a slave without law or right for the space of 6 hours. And then and there did threaten to beat and said Harriet and hold her as a slave as that by means of the premises, and Harriet was put in great fear and pain, and could not and did not attend the plaintiff's business, and the plaintiff lost and was deprived of the society, comfort, and assistance of his wife, and therefore lost great gains and profits of the value to wit $2,500. Okay, and other airings, other airings of the planet. I'm gonna take myself off. Well, damn it. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. It's about to chief a little bit while I read this, but I'm trying to think how can I disable my camera but keep my audio going. Cause yeah, if I do that, then I'm muted when I do that. Oh man. Let me see if I change the video setting, but keep the audio setting the same. I'm trying to be sneaky here. USB audio 3. And then audio off the wire. All right, y'all can still hear me. Okay, yeah, y'all can hear me. Your boy can smoke. Yeah, so you roll up. Yeah. Yeah, I got cut off from smoking. Oh yeah, yeah. See, I gotta figure out a way to keep my audio going. That way my YouTube fam and everybody in Twitter fam can still hear me and I can talk. We're gonna read through this. I can get a quick, quick one in, and then I put myself back on the camera. It's about the facts. It ain't about seeing me. It's about the facts. Not just playing. So, okay, let's keep reading. Okay, so it says here, and they're 80. Okay, and also we're gonna start right here. And also for that defendant heretofore on the same day, whatever, with force of arms, as St. Louis aforesaid made an assault against Eliza Scott and Lizzie Scott, then and still infant daughters, okay, and servants of the plaintiff. Notice they're servants of the plaintiff. Notice the language. They are servants of the plaintiff, his children. I'm saying that because a census would call your servant a slave and mark them down as slaves. Their children were slaves, right? At least that's what they want us to believe. Mm. Yeah, at least that's what they want us to believe. But these people were the infant daughters, servants of the plaintiff. And then and there, and then and there, imprisoned and held as slaves, and set Eliza and Lizzie for a long space of time, to wit 6 hours. And then and there did threaten to beat Eliza and Lizzie and hold them as slaves and restricted their liberty. So by means of promises, and said Eliza and Lizzie were put into great fear and could not and did not attend to the plaintiff's business as otherwise they might have would done, and the plaintiff thereby lost comfort of the society and service of his said children and servants of great value. hmm So if anybody's questioning, was your children labeled as servants and slaves, and not because you just bought their freedom? Okay, we just bought the freedom because they was already enslaved by the white team, man, and he had to go get them and pay the money. No, man. Goodness gracious, your parents, your ancestors may likely have been landowners listed as a head of household, and the people up under them listed as slaves, and that would have been normal for the time, as slaves and servants meant workers. Slave and servants and all that apprenticeships, basically workers. Now some people will try to say each one is different and blah blah blah. Let's not get. What's up, Uncle? Good to see you in here this morning. What's up, Lilith? What's up, Nikki? The beautiful ladies are in the house today. Who else up in here? Let me see who all up in here. Let me say my what up to the folks real quick. Yeah, I know I like to go down and say my what ups. Mm. Appreciate all the gifting too. Curtin S, I appreciate that. You gave quite a few gifts. I appreciate that. That's much appreciated. I appreciate everybody that gives gifts. Y'all appreciate you for the gifts. Much appreciated from the beautiful Yaya. Lineage Business. Appreciate those gifts. If you're a beautiful woman, I think you might be, then the beautiful Lineage Business. If you're a dude, please don't say that I said that shit. Uh, Lilith, the gorgeous Lilith. Appreciate that. The beautiful Nikki. Appreciate that. Definitely appreciate the gifts. American Booty Queen. I don't know. I mean, Ancient Booty Queen. I don't understand that one, but okay. Sunstar, good to see you up in here. Appreciate that. John Blackhawk, I'll be seeing you. Angel, what's happening, folks? On Code, the gorgeous On Code, good to see you. Who else? Tabitha J, the beautiful Tabitha J, what's happening? Regal, what's happening, boss man? Uh, Everybody else, Meta, the beautiful Meta's up in here. What's happening? And anybody else that I don't Popina, what's happening? What's up, everybody? So what's up, man? Everybody coming in here for the game this morning. They said I saw you on Twitter, then came into TikTok. That's what's up. That means it's working. hmm And let me just make sure I didn't miss any TikTok, Twitter to them because I keep having to pull up this stuff with my Windows, and I keep missing that. Okay, it won't show me who all is watching on here, but I'll see y'all if y'all chatting in. So I appreciate y'all who are chatting in. So we're gonna get back into it. I'm gonna finish smoking while we read this, and then I'll put myself back on the screen. Right. Okay. Children and servants of great value, to wit, $2,500, and other wrongs to the plaintiff that the defendant then and there did against the peace and damage of the plaintiff in an account of the aforesaid grievances bring suit by his attorney. Okay? And blah 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 kind of goes into his attorney. Sanford and now see sitting and appear before the honorable. So now we're about to get into Sanford's reply to this. Okay. So as we just seen in the plea, not once did he say, "Hey man, I'm a slave and I'm supposed to be free. I was taken from the north and to the south and now I'm supposed to be free." None of that shit was in there, man. It makes you wonder what the hell uh she said she saw her comment. What the hell? Where the hell did these people read this stuff, or is it just straight propaganda? Because all of the platforms, the news sites, and everything will tell you that these people were suing for their freedom. Nobody, and I mean nobody, has ever said that these people were suing for damages from being assaulted and being held for 6 hours. Mm. Nobody. Why do I got to go this far just to find it, right? So, okay, let's go into the reply. It doesn't start right here. It starts first with all the fluff. President of the United States, you hereby command summons, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's go to the next page. Whoops, whoops, what happened? What happened? And there's 41 pages in here, and I went through all 41, so y'all know. Hold up, what happened? Let me find my spot. Okay, Dred Scott. Okay, next page. Lizzie, next page. You're hereby summons. Next to none, the court damage, blah, 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 blah. Seal of the court of this day. So they summoned him in the court. Sanford read the same declaration. Here we go. Plea. Excuse me. Here's his plea. Okay. And the said John F. Sanford, in his own proper person, comes and says this comes and says that this court ought not to have or take further cognizance of the action aforesaid. Meaning they shouldn't even pay attention to this whole case. Mm. Because he says that said cause of action and each of and every of them, if any such have accrued to the said Dred Scott, accrued to the said Dred Scott out of the jurisdiction of the court. This is John A. Sanford saying it. He say, man, I'm gonna tell y'all this court, y'all do not even take this case on because the actions that happened to him, if it even happened, aren't even in the jurisdiction of the court. Okay, why does he say that? This is the defendant. Okay, mm. It says, uh, and exclusively within the jurisdiction of the court of the state of Missouri, as alleged in his declaration, because he is a Negro of African descent. And it says, as alleged in his declaration, because he is a Negro of African descent, his ancestors were of pure African blood and were brought into this country and sold as Negro slaves. And this, the said Sanford, to verify, wherefore he prays judgment whether this court can or will take further cognizance of the action aforesaid. John F. A. Sanford, defendant in the above cause, makes oath and says that the plea hereunto annexed is true in substance and in fact, sworn to and subscribed before me this day of the 16th or whatever. He goes down, let me go down here, it goes into more of this. It says, this day comes the plaintiff and the attorneys and files a demurrer in the plea of the defendant heretofore filed to the jurisdiction of the court in the case which said demurrer is as follows. So here's even more to his story. He says, and now comes the plaintiff and demurrers in law to the plea to the defendant to the jurisdiction of the court and says that said plea to the matters therein contained are not sufficient in the law to preclude the court of its jurisdiction of this case, and the plaintiff is not bound by law to reply to said plea. Wherefore, the plaintiff prays judgment of said plea that the defendant answer further to the plaintiff's actions. Defendant joins the demurrer in Garland. Submitted. I think I just hit the wrong thing. Mm. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Hold on, y'all. See how they're all highlighted? I hit something wrong. I think it shouldn't have did that. Well, they all highlighted. I don't know why they all highlighted. But hold on. Main thing I want to show y'all is in this. Let me just pull it up. All right, there's about the Harriet. It's doing this because I keep zooming in. As long as y'all can see, it looks like y'all should be able to see it. So I shouldn't have to zoom in. Let me stop zooming in. That's what's messing it up. And it says Sanford in his own person said that the person said the dude was of African descent. And comes to the demurs of the law or the whatever, whatever. Go to the next one. Declaration of the plaintiff, blah, 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 blah. Files the plaintiff, blah, blah, blah. Hold up. The day come, the agreement, play the attorney, suing the agreement. Trespassers form of Dred Scott their own against him, keeping him detained in prison, having him detained. Where is it at? He said he continued only such liberty. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let me go back one. So this is another plea. I don't know why it's not going up and down. Now there it is. See, it's tripping on its own now. All right, here's another plea. Now, this one says, this day again, the parties by their attorneys and the said attorneys having agreed at the time that the demurrer filed by the plaintiff to the plea of the abatement of the defendant was sustained in court, that others' pleas should be filed against the or whatever. We're going to go down and further. Following just says, go down here. It says, and the said John F.A. Sanford, H.A. Garland, his attorney, comes and defends the errings and injury when and at and says that he is not guilty of the said supposed trespasses above laid to his charge or any part thereof in manner and form as the said Dred Scott hath above therefore complained against him, and of this he said Sanford putteth himself under the country. And it says right here, and for a further plea in the behalf as the making the said assault upon the said Dred Scott in the first count of the said declaration mentioned, and imprisoning him and keeping him detained, keeping and detaining him in prison and at the said Sanford sick by leave of the court first obtained, says that the said Dred Scott ought not to have and or maintain. Sorry, I know I'm reading it kind of off or maintain his aforesaid action therefore against him, because he says that before and at the time when and at in said first count mentioned, the said Dred Scott was a Negro slave, the lawful property of the defendant, and as such slave he gently laid his hands upon and only restrained him or of such liberty as he had the right to do. And as that this the said Sanford is ready to verify, wherefore he prays judgment that whether the said Scott ought to the whole thing with the word said like every other fucking word, but the whole said Scott ought to have or maintain his aforesaid action thereof against him, and a further plea in his behalf is of the making to the assault of Harriet. So let me throw myself back on here real quick. Let me put this video setting, change this. All right. So let's talk about this. I put myself on the wrong one, but it worked. My audio is still going, so I guess that works. Let me do this before I forget. Flip it back to the other one. No. Huh. Hold up. Still getting used to this. I'll do you the black magic and make you the other one. There we go. There you go. Okay. And my audio's good. Okay. But then I'll flip me over here real quick. So, so what they're saying here is so what we had here is you have a plea by Dred Scott. He says that hey, all he says so far is this dude assaulted us, held us hostage basically for 6 hours, and threatened to beat us and threatened to make us slaves. And however they got out of it, they got out of it, right? And then when they get out of it, they sue the man, okay? And like, you ain't just gonna get away with this. I'm gonna go get my attorney and go sue. Now, does that sound like something a slave could do, right? A slave could be assaulted by his master, and he goes and pays money from his pocket to go get an attorney to fight the slave master. And not only that, this whole ordeal played out in court supposedly for several months, if not longer. And what they're trying to say is the whole time he was still a slave of this man. So you fight in court with your slave is still being a slave. It's like think about it like this. Like you're working for your job that you have a major Supreme Court case suit against, but you still going to work every day on the call center screen and chilling. Like, yeah, I'm still here getting paid. You know what I'm saying? I can't wait till this case come up. I'm taking all their bread. That doesn't make sense. But even if that was to happen, you know what else that I can't play the video because again, I can't get the audio to work. Uh, they said that at the end of the case, that his master was so inundated with the whole situation that he eventually just let him go free. I said, wait a minute. Who buys an attorney, pays for an attorney to defend himself, which means it just cost you money to defend yourself from the slave who still works on your plantation, supposedly. And y'all both, and somehow he was able to afford. You're still paying him money as your slave. Think about that. You're still paying him money as your slave to afford this attorney. That makes sense. So the slave affords the attorney that's going to sue you with the money you gave him throughout months. You continuously pay him so he can sue you instead of cutting him off, which would cut off his attorney, which would cut off the lawsuit. But I mean, you continue to pay him, so and then you also get your own attorney, which you pay, and you come into court saying that your defense is that this dude was your slave, and then at the end, and at the end of the whole court case, when they finally get rid of it due to jurisdiction, not because you won and made your case, you let him go free. Yeah, yeah, because you're so happy that this man sued you and lost and cost you attorney's fees. Like you got to think about this is a story that they really tell on C-SPAN, on NPR, on CNN, on other things. It's the most absurd story you can ever say without logically thinking it as you're saying it. Like, really? His master paid him to sue him to buy an attorney? This shit is crazy, right? But then when you read into the case and then you find out it has nothing to do with what the hell they said about, you gotta wonder what the hell is these niggas reading? Literally, what is these niggas reading? It's crazy. Make it make sense exactly. And give up. Exactly. Right shadow suing the owner. That it makes no sense. As he pays him. Doesn't make sense. Exactly. It's insanity. Okay. So who brought in the case this whole African thing and this whole slavery thing? It looks like it was Sanford. Now I got another page or draft of that I want to read through. We won't read through it on here. Why is this? The hell is going on? Let me see. Where is it at? Mm, I wanted to read over some of it. Okay, so this is okay. Yeah, this is what I want to read over. So this is supposed to be the full transcript, but that's supposed to be transcript over from the actual. This is actually where I got that actual thing. So this is a government site. This is supposed to be a transcript of the case, and then from there you can click over on here uh to get. Let me, my bad, my people in. Let me do this. You can click on this view all pages in the National Archives catalog, and that will get you over to the actual case. And wait a minute, did that get me to the case? No, I had to go search for that. But I think when I searched, all I had to do right here was just go Dred Scott. Scott. I think I did the whole Dred Scott V something something. Let's see if it just pulls up with Dred Scott. Dred Scott, really. I mean, first one that pulls up. Like when I say like you don't even need to do much research to find the real thing. You just need to know to go to the government archives, type Dred Scott, and it's the first thing that pulls up. And the reason why I wanted to show that is that's what CNN can do. They get paid to do this. Nigga, I'm just doing this. I'm doing this to help my family, my folks, to help our people um move forward, awaken and find the truth of what's been going on. That's why I do it. I don't even do this for money. I don't do none of this for anything. You know what I'm saying? And but I appreciate everything that everybody gives. That's more of an energy exchange to me. But like I feel like, you know what I'm saying? This is what I do just to help people. And I'm saying that to say these people get paid six-figure incomes. Okay, some of them might even get some in the millions if you don't. Well, CNN folks probably ain't making no millions, but some the heads, you know what I'm saying, the editors, and maybe the top folks, but them people on the screen may not. Maybe like they top folks, you know what I'm saying, like your I don't even know who's over there no more, to be honest with you. I used to be able to name some people, but all your Don Lemons and motherfuckers is already gone. And that's the thing about CNN and what people don't pay attention to is they always cycle through their motherfucking folks. That's what keeps their shit because kind of going because people get tired and mad at the people who are lying to them when they figure out that they're lying. On top of that, sometimes the representatives or not the representatives, the news reporters, they get mad and they start figuring shit out. Like there's a documentary a lot of y'all may not know. John Pilger, one of my favorite documentarians of the time. YT uh, Australian like dude, British cat, whatever. He worked with the BBC, but he did a lot of great documentaries, and one of them, see if I can find it real fast. It's called "The War You Don't See," I believe, and I'm gonna show you what it is about. These are all, and I've watched every single one of these multiple times. Some of them. But every single one of them I watched. Like this used to be the shit I was really on. All kind of just everybody. What was they talking about? What was going on in the world? The war you don't see right here. Let's see if it'll take me to it because I want to show you who's in it real quick. It's a pretty graphic image. Come on now, get off the graphic image. God, Lee, how come you're not playing? Let me see if it's on YouTube to play. John Pilger, The War You Don't See. Yeah. So you got cats like this cat who used to work for them, looks like a Somalian, right? He used to work for CNN. You got people like let me go to one that's famous. All these folks many of these folks used to work for CNN and other ones. Where he at? Where he at? There's Julian Assange. No, this ain't the war you don't see. This isn't. No, this is it. There he goes. There he goes. Dan Rather. Dan Rather. Now, who knew Dan Rather was talking shit about CNN? Okay. What's up, boss? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna send that over to him now. Appreciate that, boss. Yeah, thanks. Bye. Give me a second, y'all. Let me send this from a detailer to this customer. 74 Sadowski. Sadow. But yeah, so who knew that? I wish I could let y'all hear it. Yeah, I wish I could let y'all hear it, man. Let me try to do this screen share here in a second. Give me just a second. Card detail balance. I got so much shit going on. Okay. All right. Excuse me. So, who knew that these people were talking shit about CNN and telling you the lies, literally telling you they either had us do this or they told us to lie about that, or I know I said that. They'll say like Darren Rather, I know I said this. I kind of wish I didn't say that. You know what I'm saying? Oh well, they'll make excuses. Well, maybe we just didn't, check our references. But many of us they admit they kind of knew, and this was during the Iraq War, talking about the real stuff. So if you want to watch something and really learn about corruption in news from then and of course now, yeah, no, this is a good one you want to watch right here. And all of these people were reporters with either CNN or some major news, and they're telling the truth. But that's the reason again. The reason why I brought that up is because that's the reason why had to get off that. That's the reason why they cycle through their people. They grab these people, and it's all fresh and new and good to them. And you may get this person out of journalism school, and they feel like they really want to make changes and this, that, and the third, and then come around and now they get, and you know how it is when you get into the job and you really settle in and they start putting pressure on you to do certain things you wouldn't either trained to do, or things that might go beyond your ethics and morals, right? And you're sitting here wondering now. For some of us, like when I think about me and I'll talk about for me. When that shit would happen to me at like some lower paying job when I was just working at like yeah, I don't want to say like lower paying job or whatever. But when I used to work in my younger 20s, you know what I'm saying, early 20s at certain jobs, if they were telling me to do some shit, I would personally I'd rebel against it. Like fuck you, I ain't doing that dumb shit. For instance, I had a sales job at Dell Computers over the phone in the call center, and they had a whole check. Now I was good with the sales because I just have a good demeanor with the customers. Uh, I was always making some of the top sales here and there. You know what I mean? So you really ain't got no problems. But they started instituting certain things they wanted done, which was a checklist. And in this checklist, they basically trying to make you maximize every customer. And like I didn't feel good selling a gaming computer or a tricked out $3,000 computer to some old lady who just told me she's gonna play solitaire and send a few emails. And eventually that's the only job I ever really got fired from because I didn't follow that checklist. But and then I would say, like, look at my sales, this and then the third. He was like, well, did you offer the 3-year plan? Bitch, no, I didn't offer the 3-year plan, okay? That would have took him up to more money. Okay? Fuck you and your 3-year plan, okay? I couldn't stand it. Still today, fuck you, Dale, and your 3-year plan, okay? But I get it. They trying to maximize the hell out of every sale. And but at that time, to be honest, come to find out they were doing a company downsizing, getting rid of their home sales division, and they was coming up with any little nitpicky thing to kind of get rid of people. And after they got rid of most of us, then eventually because I got some homeboys that's still there to this day. Crazy, but they moved up, you know. But they would had told me, man, I had to switch over to home to business sales or whatever. You know what I mean? Because they got rid of X, Y, and Z. I was like, man, they was going through getting rid of. They had to get rid of going to their other building, so they was getting rid of this building. That there was a temporary building. So sometimes people are just bullshit you. But I'm saying all that to say, I'm going into a little tangent, but these people will have you do things and say things that go against your morals and your ethics, and these people will talk about those things after a while. You know what I'm saying? Like when you first settle in a job, especially if they're paying you big money, you got to think about it. That's why I brought up my little job getting fired at Dell. But because imagine me getting a job making $250,000, $500,000 a year or whatever on national television, and they start telling you to do shit you don't like. Right now, it's different. Now it's like, well, shit. I'm gonna have to lose X, Y, and Z. I won't be able to do X, Y, and Z. And they probably get you all settled in too before they start shoveling some shit your way. You know what I'm saying? You done got in, got to pay. Wait till you buy a new Range Rover or something. You know what I'm saying? Then they slide something on your desk. I'm gonna need you to say this on the air real quick, or they just put some in your teleprompter real fast. You know what I'm saying? And now, what are you gonna do? What you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? It's a harder situation than me being my little rebellious 20-year-old self, like, fuck your job and your 3-year deal. And the nigga paying me 500K. God damn, I gotta offer this lady 300, the 3-year deal. I guess this old lady about to get this 3-year deal, nigga. I'm playing, man. You gotta have morals and ethics, man. You can't. Hold on, I gotta plug in my laptop before that bitch die on me. You can't. You gotta have morals and ethics, man. You can't be sold to do everything. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have some stopping point. But you get what I'm saying. So let's get back. That's a little long sidebar to what the hell we talking about. Let's get back over. Let's see here. Um, Trying to remember where I left off after all of that. So, we went through the case, okay, and so we see the reason why I brought. Okay, now I remember why I brought up the news media because I was saying, how come the news media gets paid all of this money? I'll throw me up there. How come the news media gets paid all this money, right? And yet they still. Let me lower this brightness on this light. Since the sun has came out, son. There you go. All right. These people get paid all of this money, yet they still shovel the bullshit to you. But like I was explaining there, some of them are doing it unbeknownst to them or under a lot of um, certain circumstances, life circumstances, that make it hard for them not to just tell them what the editor told them to say, or tell them what the whoever they call at the top of the news media told them to say. You know what I mean? And so when we get into this about this case, about the Dred Scott case, you start to think, is it just all of these people are not going to the government website and just typing the word goddamn Dred Scott and reading the first document? Or do they not know how to do that? I mean, that should be one of the very first qualifications in becoming a journalist is knowing how to research, like classes upon research and hierarchy of sources. Right? They the ones that got to go get sources. They always got these hidden sources, whatever. It should be hierarchies of sources, a timeline of events, who, where, what, why, when, how, that whole little shit and all that stuff, right? But all I had to do was that, and I know the case. So for all I'm getting to is basically it's all controlled. These people got to be lying to us. Some of these people are following what the editor or the head, whatever says. Some of these people are just flat out fucking liars. They've read it, they've read other things, and they decided to go with the more modern narrative on purpose because everybody should know why Dred Scott, because everybody keeps the talking point they will say all the time is the Dred Scott case was the most infamous Supreme Court decision in the history. You know what I'm saying? And they say everybody says, and I was saying that in my previous live stream, it was like whenever everybody says the same thing over and over and over again, and everybody has that same talking point. Yes, I think it does go down as the most infamous such or such a decision that they ever made. Eh, eh, You're not going to use any other phrasing like, yeah, I thought it was just a pretty bad decision. No, it has to be the most infamous. It's like, okay. So now you know they're shoveling the propaganda. That's how you know these people are lying. A lot of these people are purposefully lying, I should say. It's one thing to just be lying because somebody shoveled a lie through you. It's another thing to be purposefully lying because you know you're lying. All right. And so now we're gonna get into this bill. Said it ain't old news, it's new news all the time. So yeah, so now we're gonna get a little bit not really into this bill, into this case. Um Here it is. Here it is. Where we were I was kind of reading through this last time, but I'm trying to decide. I'm trying to decide how long have I been on? Hour and a half. What time is it? 9:47. I got like I do got some stuff I gotta do. But since this is some new folks, I'm gonna actually show some newspaper clippings. Um let me do my little app check real quick. I hadn't even seen how many people was. Oh, let me let him know it's paid too. Let's see. Okay, so what's the Twitter world doing right now? Let's see. 55 people on Twitter. I don't know if that's concurrent or if that's I don't know. It looks like it's 55 going right now. What's up, 55 Twitter folks? Uh, X folks. It's still weird to say X. All these years later, it's still weird to say X. Let me check my YouTube real quick. 16 people on the YouTube. That's what's happening. What's happening, YouTube fam? And of course, 39 over here on the Twitter. I mean, on my TikTok. My TikTok. Uh, Appreciate that. Love all the support. So we'll go over just a few other things, and then I'll end up making my way. But like we have this right here, this newspaper clipping. Okay, let me make it about right there for us. Make sure y'all can see that. Yeah. So this is one of the newspaper clippings that to me told most of the truth about the case. You still don't hear about the whole situation of Scott suing Sanford because of the damages, but you do see other truths in here. So it says Associate Justice McLean proceeded to express his views in the case of Dred Scott versus Sanford. After stating the facts relative to the subject, he proceeded to say that the plea as to jurisdiction is radically defective. It has never been held necessary that to constitute a citizen, a man should have the qualifications of an elector. Now, notice that this, and it says it over here, another one, they says that, I'll show you real quick. Here, it also says that, where is it at? Right here. It says, let me make that a little bit bigger. Let me just make it big and I'll throw me up in there. Here. Okay, so it says in blue, the Chief Justice confounded thus the very different qualities of citizen and elector. So this is a passage saying there's something different between being a citizen and an elector. And there's also right over here it says very similar thing in yellow. It has never been held necessary that to constitute a citizen, a man should have the qualifications of an elector. So, what is the differences between a citizen and an elector? That's what you should be asking. Now, I still have questions about it because when we look up the definitions for citizen, both in the dictionaries from late 1700s, mid 1800s, and late 1800s, you get different definitions. But okay, you get the definitions of a free man, and then eventually a definition of an inhabitant of a city, of a municipality that's governed by somebody. Well, when you get to elector isn't necessarily in the old law dictionary or the old it might be in the old dictionary, not old law dictionary. I gotta double check that. But I don't know why I did that. But what I'm getting to is I'm still trying to figure out what's the difference because there both say that you can vote. One says that you can select. The electors can select the people, but then it also says something about voting up under it. So which they would select through voting. But then I was trying to figure out what are the qualifications of an elector versus what are the qualifications of a citizen, which a citizen would just be a person, a free man born on the land. Elector, I was trying to figure that out, and I still haven't. I need to look a little bit more into that, but just take away from this that there is a difference between being an elector, like your electoral college, okay, for those. So just get it like this: the citizens vote in the popular election for the popular vote. The electors actually select the president through their vote. There's a difference between a citizen and an elector. And these people were trying to confound the differences, saying that here. But it says females and minors may sue in federal courts and and so may an individual who has his domicile in the state in which he may sue. So they're saying, hey, basically, people who are citizens can still sue. I mean, women and females and minors can sue. But it says here in blue, it says the most general definition of a citizen is a free man. And the reason why I highlighted that separately is because that's what we saw in the dictionaries prior to this, both in the law dictionary and in the dictionaries, in the normal dictionaries. Now, when you go to 1860 dictionaries and law dictionaries and later dictionaries, they change it. But right here, this is another source that even more specifies. Yes, they just say it's a free man, not a governed citizen, is what I'm trying to get to. Okay? My bad. That Probably just making noise. It keeps hitting my damn necklace. Okay. It says the plea does not show in red right here. The plea does not show Dred Scott to be a slave. Like I showed y'all earlier. His plea, Dred Scott never said he was a slave. He said he was threatened to be slave. He was pretty much slaved in prison for 6 hours. So it never showed him to be a slave. That's exactly what they say here. I wish they would have went into why he sued him, but okay. It says it does not follow that a man who is it does not follow a man is not free whose ancestors were slaves. Basically saying just because you're a slave doesn't mean you're not a free person, a citizen. Just because your ancestor, I'm sorry, just because you're free doesn't mean you're a slave. If you're a slave, you're not free. But just because your ancestors might have been enslaved, like as prisoners of war, not just brought from Africa slaves, right? Just because they were slaves doesn't mean that you are not a free man. Okay. And here in yellow, it says, let me move this out the way. And here in yellow, right below that, it says, it was said colored citizens are not agreeable members of society. But this is more a matter of taste than of law. Several of the states have admitted such persons to the right of suffrage and recognized them as citizens. And this has been done in the slave as well as free states. On the subject of citizenship, we have not been very fastidious. Now, this is where it gets really, really good. It says, hey, under the treaty of with Mexico, I'm trying to hold this over there so they can see it. Whoops. Well, let me just move this over a tad. There you go. That's actually better. Under the treaty with Mexico, we have made citizens of all grades, combinations, and colors. So think about this first of all, just within that yellow sentence. This is 1857. They said that under the treaty with Mexico, they've made citizens with all grades of and combinations of colors. I want you to take away a couple of things. One, sorry, some on my lip. One, what did they classify these Mexicans as? Because there wasn't a Mexican category on the census records around this time. In fact, you don't really get a Mexican category on the census records until around like the 1920s. So, what are Mexicans classified who supposedly got some type of citizenship through treaties with Mexico? And when you think about it, part of their so called treaties with Mexico, they could be referring to New Spain. So, they could be talking about areas like Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, XYZ. But there were some Spaniards and other people there. They said all types of grades and combinations of colors, but they don't really specify. But of course, if they say it like that, obviously, so-called melanated folks like us, not so-called melanated folks like us, I'm about to say so-called black, we would be included in that. And notice they say treaties. You do treaties with nations. Mexico was a nation. Let's read the one below it. The same was done in the case of Louisiana and Florida. What's that mean? What was the same? Treaties made citizens of through treaties of all grades and combinations of colors of people of Louisiana and Florida. Now we know the Dancing Rabbit Treaty of 1830 says that the Article 14 says that people can stay in a place and become citizens of the United States. Those would be of all grades and combinations of colors because only we make mostly all grades and combinations of colors over here. Anybody else that came over here was mostly pale, except for some of the Moors, some of the swarthy Moors. I'm sorry, don't get me wrong. There's some other folks, and then some Filipinos. You have some dark-skinned Filipinos and other stuff come here too, but they are very distinctly different. The Moors could have maybe cloaked themselves up in our shit, uh, but It says no one ever doubted in blue. It says here, let me go back up, go up some so they can see that. No one ever doubted, nor a court held that the inhabitants did not become citizens under the treaties. Of course, they have become citizens without being naturalized. Okay, because you naturalize an immigrant. We are natural. We are natural already. Let me do this. Natural, you just see that. Right? We are natural. Okay? We've been here. When people come here, they have to be naturalized. I sound like a dude that was on a panel with me earlier. I don't like to be like them dudes. They be like, it's Sudan. Don't you know? It means it starts out Saud Dan. Okay, it means this. And it wasn't an African dude. It was one of them Sonetta niggas, one of them brother polite ass fucking on the corner ass Hebrew Israelite type like is and nothing against Hebrew Israelites. But you know, one of them type of niggas. He's just all about word. Every word he has to resound it out. Oh, you said Morris, you mean Marurus? Whatever the fuck. Like, shut up, nigga, man. Get your stupid. I'm about to go smoke my gee ass, nigga. Shit, I'm tripping. Hey, all right, anyway. But naturalized, I wanted y'all to get that because that is what that means. I just recently found out. We looked up on a live stream. What does naturalized mean? And it's the state of making somebody a natural person upon the land to be able to have the freedoms to live about as a free man or a free citizen as you do as well, not a person being under the subject of a government. Now, when people come over here, they get naturalized into the United States citizenship, which is not a free man of the government. I mean, a free man not under a government is allegiance given to the government, given to the government. You know what I mean? Which we have that too. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we can have our I wouldn't say sovereignty. Sovereignty, the word when I looked that up, it's actually like to have dominion over people, like to be a king or a ruler. And I can understand the phrase like I'm a king or ruler over my own life, but not technically. Once you move, yeah, you can be a king or ruler in your own life if you live in a place by yourself and you do everything by yourself, you forge everything by yourself, and it's just you. But if you live in an actual functioning city, an area where we're all kind of putting in and doing this whole cohesive thing, then there's going to be some kind of order. You know what I'm saying? Some people ain't gonna like certain things, whatever. We're gonna have a set amount of rules that can kind of be a cool basis. That's what a normal government should be: a set amount of rules that have a good basis, just to keep the good peace about everything. As we have all these different personalities of people that want to do different things. That's what your normal government really should be. But instead, it's this overreaching government of power and over policing, purposeful prison, inflation, inflating the numbers of people in prison, all this other shit, whatever, industrial. That's what I'm saying. The industrialization of the prison complex, all that shit. But okay, so Dred Scott. So this right here, as you seen, there was many things in this that in that particular one. I'll pull up another one here that's got some pretty good information on it. Now, this is another thing about the Dred Scott case. It says the Supreme Court of the United States had under the great jurist John Marshall won a high place in the esteem of the people of the country, and all Americans were disposed to accept his decisions as final word upon any subject. And what this basically is saying is that I'm gonna put myself up here real quick. Switch that around. So what it's basically saying there is, and I'll blow that up a little bit, like right there. I'll make that box a little bit bigger. All right, at least for right now. So, what it's saying here is like, hey, at this particular at a particular time, not this, but at a particular time, the jury the Supreme Court, I'm sorry, was held in high esteem. Okay, people actually appreciated the work that they did because everything they did was just and whatever. And they looked up to this John Marshall. I went to John Marshall High School, so I guess that's good to know. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know who he was. You know, you first start thinking. I mean, I still don't know who he is. I need to go look more into him. I can't base who he was based off of this, but still, when I used to think about him, I thought it was some kind of, YT, supremacist, blah, 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 that made the school, whatever, whatever. But there's John Marshall schools all over. But okay. But then it said now this. So they used to hold the Supreme Court in high esteem. Okay. Now it says this during the decade before the war, 10 years before 1860ish. However, the Supreme Court had deteriorated greatly in the character and legal attainments of its members. There was not a man on the court who was held in high esteem as a lawyer or a jurist. So, what they're saying there is 10 years before the war, which would put it around like 1850, the whole Supreme Court changed. The same Supreme Court who decides this Dred Scott case and they lie about this whole African thing, the same court. I guess if I do that, it's gonna do thumbs up. Okay, whatever. Weirdo shit. Um, but the same court. Okay. So now let's read even further. Or that would put what I was saying was that would put the deteriorated court in. They were active during the time of the Fred Scott, Dred Scott case. So it says there was not a man on the court who wasn't blah blah blah, who wasn't a lawyer or a jurist, and nearly, if not all, of the members were politicians, whom Jackson had appointed in reward for partisan subserviency. They were politicians rather than lawyers, and so regarded by the legal fraternity. Why is that important? Because anybody can be a politician. Not everybody can be a fucking lawyer or a jurist. You have to go to school for that. You have to learn the law for that. That's why they're making this case. Like, how you gonna put a bunch of politicians that could be a bunch of Joe Schmoes on the motherfucking Supreme Court? That's what they're saying. And on top of that, they're saying, hey, not only did they do that, Jackson appointed people who were subservient, who were super obedient to him. Kiss asses. Okay? He appointed kiss asses to the Supreme Court. And what happens? In green right here. At their head was Chief Justice Taney of Maryland, who had received his appointment from Jackson as a reward for removing deposits after Jackson's secretary, the treasurer, had refused to do so and resigned. So what does that mean? The only reason why this nigga is sitting on the Chief Justice Board of the Supreme Court is because he did some foul shit that another motherfucker wouldn't do. That tells you the mindset of this person. He gonna do whatever you tell him to do. We need some African language in that new legislation bill, not bill, in that new case, because we need this case law to pass through, you see, for this reconstruction period. You see. So we're gonna need you to get up in here and do what we tell you to do. Yes, sir. I'm a kiss ass. Call me Mr. Kiss Ass. Okay? So my, right? It's crazy. And Tawny is the main one that they talk about who was over this case, who dismissed the case based upon this man admitting to being an African and saying they don't have jurisdiction. Let's read the actual wording, which we have already, but whoops. There's two passages. A free Negro, it's in this yellow. A free Negro of the African race whose ancestors were brought to this country and sold as slaves is not a citizen within the meaning of the Constitution of the United States. Okay, makes sense. You're an immigrant still. They didn't want immigrant Africans to be citizens, and that is perfectly fine with me, nigga. I'm not a goddamn African, okay, and neither are many of the people watching right now, okay. But down here, Mr. Tani says, "Hey, the plaintiff is down here, right here. The plaintiff, having admitted by his demurrer to the plea in abatement that his ancestors were imported from Africa and sold as slaves, is not a citizen to the state of Missouri, according to the Constitution of the United States, and was not entitled to sue in that character in the circuit court." Now, let me just say this again: this case had nothing to do with freedom, anything. It had to do with, it didn't even talk about jurisdiction. I mean, you always got to establish jurisdiction. That's an excuse. But the case is the fact that you have a black dude, so called black, who admits he never admitted to being no African, but who a black guy who says that this YT man assaulted him and his family and held them for 6 hours as a slave. You have this YT dude come in and say, "Hey, this dude was my slave." He just admitted. He just said that. He just admitted it, not admitted. He just made the lie up. So it's like, well, I just say he was my slave, man, and y'all just gonna have to deal with that, and we'll see, or whatever, you know. And so, but I think that was purposeful. I think this was all chosen because then, if if he was to be able to win the case, even if it was suing for freedom, even if he was suing for freedom, because the whole story is he was suing them for his freedom because he went up north, came back down, or whatever. It would have been better to not dismiss the case for jurisdiction, but to rule in the favor of the defendant for for the case president saying that, hey, you cannot follow these slave laws state to state. Okay, that would have been the better ruling. And the reason why I'm saying that is using jurisdiction to get out of this is an excuse not to have to rule on the actual case and the facts. Like, you know what? I ain't even got to look at the facts. This nigga ain't a citizen. I don't give a fuck what the facts is. He's not a citizen. We have no jurisdiction. He can't sue. But that wasn't the case. He really was. An Indian, likely, right? Did he say that? No, but I'm pretty sure, right? And his folks, you know what I'm saying? And so what I'm getting to mainly is that they lied. The defendant lied, brought this in. Then you got Justice Tani, who dismisses the case for being African descent. What that did was put on the books a case in common law, because common law works off of precedent, history of cases, a particular wording saying any African cannot be a citizen. Now starts the propaganda mill and treaties on trying to make Indians believe they're Africans. First, they start doing it by changing legislation. After 1857, you get something called the Slave Codes of 1860, 3 years later. Sure, right here. Let me put that up so y'all can see it a little bit better. Shorten me a little bit. All right, I'm getting used to this little platform. I still wish I could have my name like I want my name and shit, but that's cool. But by 1860, now they're writing some new slave codes. This is in the Library of Congress, okay? And in these slave codes, they start putting in some interesting language, okay? It's almost like, hey, they're like, hey, now that we have a case in the courts, we can start putting in this language. And on some of them, you will see. Let's see. Let's go forward. Let me find it. Not this page. It's one of these first coming pages, though. This thing is just slow to go from page to page. Right here. The first thing right here says Negroes not citizens of the U.S. Now let's read, though. A free Negro of the African race, okay, whose ancestors were brought to this country and sold as slaves is not a citizen within the meaning of the Constitution of the United States. Dred Scott versus Sanford. For those who can't see, my bad. Dred Scott versus Sanford. They mentioned the case. And from that, they now start more literature on it. Okay? That being the beginning of some African thing. Now, all Negroes are not African. And we can prove that by looking up what the word Negro meant in the dictionary. Okay? And I had to pull up. Let me see if I can get to it quick. If not, I'll just get back onto the what you call it. It's black Negro. Now, it depends on what time you look at the definition because they changed the definitions. So, what's funny is in 1857, a dictionary will include an African language under Negro, one of the black race of men of Africa or one descended from this race. Okay? But when you look at prior Negroes in different, and I wanted to show that Negro is not in the law dictionary. This is a law dictionary. The word Negro, this is where it would be, is not there. But neither was black. Black was not in the law dictionaries. You don't get black in the law dictionary until Black's Law Dictionary, damn near, which is weird. And that doesn't come out until 1891. That's why I don't really pay much attention to Black's Law Dictionary when I'm talking about history. When I'm talking about history, I don't pay much attention to Black's Law Dictionary. Now, that's what black meant in 1828. Notice how black doesn't say anything about Africa in it. Of the color of night, dark, cloudy, countenance, horrible, wicked, dryden, stuff like that, right? Negro, 1828, just 30 years before, never said nothing about an African. It says a Negro is a blackamoor, brown, okay? And when I go to 1700 dictionaries and more, they all pretty much say the same thing. A Negro was a blackamoor or a black person or whatever, black whatever, okay? But when you look into the Middle Times, they changed the definition. Now they're adding African words in the definition. That's them covering their tracks. Okay. Um, but a Negro can be of any race because if it just means dark, right? You have dark, you could call a goddamn Hindustani who's a black skinned Hindustani. You could call him a Negro in a sense. He's a Negro race of a Hindustani. Okay, of a Hindustan, yeah, Hindustani. We are a Negro race of American Indian. They are a Negro race of Africans. And the reason why I'm going into that is because that's how I'm going to have to interpret this. Because if you just said a free Negro, period, whose ancestors were brought to this country and sold as slaves, I'd have just said, well, one, you still said the brought to this country. We weren't brought to this country either. So you're still kind of Xing my people out, the American Negroes, American Indian Negroes. You know what I'm saying? But let's keep going. Unless words don't mean anything, if words and definitions of words don't mean anything and it's just interpreted by whatever, whoever, then all law is pretty much is dumb. If we're not sticking to definite definitions as we're legislating these particular things. Okay, so if you threw in there as a free African Negro or whatever, and it also goes over here, you got the other ones talk about it too, but I want to get to this one. It says an African admitting that his ancestors have been slaves is not a citizen to the United States. Admitting, not an African who is A person who was sold as slaves is not a citizen. A person who admits it. Why is the admit word there if it didn't have meaning, right? And you go over here, the plaintiff having admitted by his demurrer, it's the same statement from the Dred Scott case. Having admitted by the plea of his demurrer and blah, blah, that his ancestors were imported from Africa is not a citizen to the United States or the state of Missouri by the what Constitution. Okay, this comes out 3 years later, but then what comes out from 1860? What comes out in 1866? My people know on TikTok, but my other people may not know. That's when you get what all tribes signed a treaty in 1866. Every one of them, basically. Chickasaws, Choctaws, Creeks, Cherokees, everybody signed a new deal, a new treaty, all in 1866. Now, the reason why that's so coincidental is because all all tribes have never all simultaneously signed treaties in the same year. A treaty is usually signed, put myself up here. A treaty is usually signed. Let me see if any, make sure I'm not missing anything over here. Do you know what's it? Let me see. I've been missing what y'all was saying. I'm gonna catch up on the comments in the chat here in a second. My bad, y'all. Um, and on my TikTok. Typically, when treaties are done, it's done after certain major events, either wars going on, or a government, a bunch of settlers are pushing in, and y'all trying to make agreements or whatever. It's just an agreement between nations, and we're gonna sign this depending on what happened. If we just went to war, we signing this agreement. Okay, we about to have some peace. If y'all coming up and flooding up in here, we about to sign this treaty before we get to a war to try to keep some peace. Things like that is why you would usually sign up on a treaty. Now, if everybody's coming together in 1866, what happened? That made all of them want to sign a treaty at the same time because it was usually staggered other treaties prior. A treaty of this year, treaty of that year, whatever, right? Well, they'll say it's because of the Civil War. They say that, hey, because of the Civil War, slavery was abolished. So they had to go through and write new treaties, dealing with the slaves. But what they don't tell you, and I'm not going to look it up, I've done it on other things. Y'all haven't seen it, so y'all can get a visual. When you look up the treaties of 1866 from each of the tribes, I'll show you one of them. We'll look at the Seminole Treaty. Now, notice there was treaties prior. Let me pull it back up. Notice there was treaties prior to 1866, and then you get to the Treaty of 1866. No treaties after that, just agreements. Okay, the treaties are as binding as almost the Constitution. When you get to that, all of a sudden they want to hurry up and act like they got to address this whole slavery and African thing. The Seminole Nation covenant that henceforth in said nation slavery shall not exist nor involuntary servitude except for in the crime and punishment. Wherefore, blah 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 blah. Then you have stuff like now they're talking about freedmen. Let me make sure. Okay, let me finish this. Actually, here it is right here. And inasmuch as are among the Seminoles many persons of African descent and blood, notice they threw that in there because that's in the language of the Dred Scott case. That's in the language and even though in the jurisdictional decision that being of an African blood, you cannot be a citizen. So somebody drew in here in this treaty, all of a sudden saying, hey, there's some African blood people we got to deal with. Now, in the prior treaties, 1866, let's look at the Treaty of 1856. In this treaty, oh, it's pretty funny. If you type in the words like, African, right? Find on page Africa, it's not in there. African anything ain't in there. Nothing. How about something dealing with the black folks? Not blacksmiths, not black folks. Keep going down. Yeah, blacksmiths, black dirt. Okay. How about some dealing with slaves? Didn't even talk about them. Didn't even talk about them. What about that? That's about it, right? Negroes. Didn't talk about the Negroes. Now I'm gonna say I'm not gonna do this now because it takes forever. But I had pulled up on prior ones on prior live streams multiple treaties. I went through each one of these other treaties. Treaty of Seminole 1832, 33, or 45. Did the same thing. None of the words exist. Okay. And then I also went to the Creek treaties. None of the words exist. But in 1866, it exists. Let me see if I got that Creek treaty saved. 1866 Creek Treaty. And they have to hurry up and start. It's like they start the treaty off talking about the niggas. Like, let's talk about these niggas first. Slavery amongst the Creeks, rights of those who are of African descent. Why y'all so quick to talk about it now? You didn't talk about it in the other treaty prior. What made y'all decide to go into African language in all your treaties for every tribe? Y'all didn't even talk about there being niggas because we were the niggas. We were the tribe, right? But y'all didn't even talk about it prior to that. So what you start to find, appreciate that, Lily. What you start to find is Albert Pike was the one who was assigned, which you won't be able to hear it. Whoops. No. But this would basically be telling you that Albert Pike signed treaties with the Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and whatever Indians. He was established to set this up. Now, besides the idea and things that I already knew that he was a Mason, and that some of the chiefs, I didn't know at the time, but I knew he was a Mason. So I knew that there was trickery going on. That's why I saved this. This is like one of my first literally this is at the beginning of my receipts in my iPad. So this I saved it in 2022. What's this, 2025? I didn't find out till 2025 what I'm about to tell you about this, but I already knew it was corrupt. All right. Like Albert Pike wrote Morals and Dogma. He's the one that predicted all the world wars, World War III and all that shit. That Albert Pike, okay? So I'm like, why would he be tasked to do this? What is it about Albert Pike? But then later on, more recent, definitely, like, look how far recent. That was 2022. It's not until literally recent. Right here. December 1st of this year, where I started watching this dude's video. And this dude, you're not gonna be able to hear it, but this dude says two major things. One, that several of the YT, he didn't say the YT, but we know several of the YT chiefs at the time were Masons. Okay, well, that puts them in the vicinity of Albert Pike. They would know Albert Pike. He was pretty high up there. He wrote a book about shit, right? So they likely read said book. And the other thing that he said that was really important. So now we know the people are around him, and we know that he was tasked with getting them to sign up these treaties. The other thing is Albert Pike was an attorney. Why is that important? Letting that slip. An attorney pays attention to the law. An attorney would know already. Let me put myself over here. Hold on. As I go on my little not diatribe, whatever. An attorney had to do all that just to be all extra. An attorney. But an attorney would pay attention to the law. An attorney would know the details of the recent 1857 Dred Scott case that just happened 9 years prior. An attorney would legislate said treaties to purposely X out the black people in the tribes once and for all by law, because we have a law on the books. Likely Judge Tawney was a Mason. He was appointed by Jackson, being a kiss ass, who was likely also a Mason too, Mr. Jackson. You see how this goes? They all conspired together to get you to believe that you're an African after making sure they included in law that an African can't be a citizen and an African Negro is who they try to get you to think that you are. They first had to put it in law, put it in the slave codes, then make it binding in the treaty if you as an Indian admit to being an African. Now they didn't put the word admit, they just said they got people of African descent. It is what it is. Are you one of the ones of African descent? So to you to admit that, and now you won't be under the jurisdiction and under the character of the law to be able to sue or to get any kind of special anything from the tribe. Which is why, in many cases, why the Seminoles, which I can't play it, the audio, why they lost the $54 million suit or didn't get money from the $54 million lawsuit that went to the so-called red Indians of the tribe. The black Indians, it literally states, you couldn't share in it because you were slaves to the Indians. But they were never slaves. That's the most prominent case to look at to prove that this shit was some bullshit. Because they were never slaves. They didn't finish their last war until 1856. Slavery ended 7 years later, 8 years later, 1865. So they got moved to Oklahoma. Some stayed in Florida. But when they went there, they had their guns on them. And they were the warriors of the tribe. They were the main ones fighting. In fact, General Jessup is the one that says we're fighting Negroes, and we've seen what the Seminole warriors look like. Just so I can show real quick. In fact, I'm already kind of right there by them. Where is that photo? Right here. Your Seminoles. Okay, we see that they tough. They ain't nobody's bitch. And losing a war to the English and then moving to Oklahoma isn't gonna make them all of a sudden put down their motherfucking pew pews and start all of a sudden becoming slaves to these red men who they were protecting. They were protecting these people, which I can't play in the videos, but yeah, I also got that in the video where they say, "Hey, here, right here, it would say they were their warriors, protectors, and the Indians depended on them as warriors and interpreters, whatever. They were the chiefs and blah blah blah, all this other stuff. So if we were their warriors, and I said that back then, this was in my early time looking up this stuff. If we were, I kept saying to myself, I kept saying like, and in fact, I looked this up before this because I had another iPad that and I had to transfer some shit over. But anyway, either way, uh, I said back then, if we were their warriors and protecting them, why would we go to Oklahoma and just lay down our arms and be like, okay, look, I'll just be a slave. Tell me what you want me to do. Hit the field, pick the cotton. All right, I guess I'm just by law. I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. Nigga, please, y'all just sat there fighting against slavery, fighting against the English to bringing in slavery. Literally, the headline of it is the reason why the Seminole War was happening is because the English was trying to bring in slavery. And they're like, why would the red men fight with you, which was really some Spaniards? Why would these Spaniard red men fight with you against these white T dudes that's trying to enslave you if they was gonna enslave you anyways themselves? When they just enslave you, when they go fight with the white man, they would just go fight with the English. Oh, you trying to make them slaves? We already had them slaves. Well, we'll fight with you because they've been fighting us. That makes a lot more sense. But these are the stories these people come up with. But as we get to that, what I'm getting to is get back to the narrative. They lost their lawsuit for the $54 million because they said they were slaves. Not that I'm looking at my lens and I'm like, is my lens got some shit on it? But I think that's some flares or something. Anyway, um, they said they were saying that the Seminoles lost that lawsuit because they um they were slaves to the natives. But again, they weren't slaves. So then you got to figure out what proof did they use to label them as slaves? If they never admitted to being slaves during that 9 year period from 1856 to 1865, if they never verbally admitted it and they never was physically slaves, because they had them pew pews, and I'll show you. Because like I got this is the I'm gonna have to go over to my Seminoles folder. Let me put it up top. So this video, which you can't hear, is a guy that says, "Hey, they said he said the freedmen came here with their pew pews on them, and they said that the freedmen were slaves to the Indians, but that don't make sense because slaves don't have no pew pews, right? That's what he said. I was like, that makes a whole lot of goddamn sense to me. Yeah. You come to me saying, okay, hit the field. I'm gonna say, well, hit the motherfucking ground after I hit you with this lead, right? But but what's funny is I was looking at my photographs that I had saved at another period of time. And I was looking at him on the live stream one day and I said, look at that. This is a family of Seminoles. And I said, do you see what he has in his hand? He has his pew pew with him. Yes. They came there with their guns on them. And not only do I have a man saying it, I have a picture showing it. Okay? So these people can't lie and say that these people were slaves. So what put them into a slavery status? That caused their jurisdiction to likely be the thing that kept them from getting that part of the $54 million. Likely it was the Dawes Rolls. The Dawes Rolls included a section on every card. Now, they didn't have to do this, but they did this. Now, they would say in order to make it easier to fill all these things out, you just got to fill out this little card and whatever. But if I can find a damn card, whatever, fuck it. I'll just do this. Seminole Indian Dawes card. So your typical card trying to get that pull up. Okay. Will look like this. Now this is one from a non-freedman. So if this is where they're playing games, but they're like, okay, if you're a regular Indian, we're gonna put you on these cards. Okay. Now, if you were a freedman, we were gonna put you on this card. And on this card, actually that's one part of a card. That's not the most recent card because there were several types of cards. Hold on. The ones they go by is not this one. Some of those, but here is one. I guess I could have went to my damn ancestry. Damn, it should have been on here. Let me just go to my ancestry. Way faster. I'll just pull up one of them. So what you have here is a category. Well, this would be your Freedman cards. And what you have here in this on these Freedman cards are preset categories. One preset category is asking, who were you a slave of? Now, what if you were a slave of nobody? Could they leave that blank, or did they have to put somebody there? Well, for the Seminoles, you will see somebody listed there. I wanted to, I know I got one. I know I got one. I got two different Seminole folders. That's why. And I think it's saved in this one. Nope, it's in the other one, and I just am overlooking it. That's what it is. Because I'm skimming too fast. There it is. Skimming too fast. So when I seen it, now this is one right here. This is a Seminole one. Right there, right? Okay, Freeman Seminole Row. Slave of, and they say he was a slave. This person was a slave of Eliza Bowlegs. Well, instantly I already knew something was amiss with this because the Bowlegs are a melanated family. Okay, Billy Bowlegs. He was one of the chiefs. All right, so you got to ask a question: are these people? Let's go back to the card. With the last name Carter, are the Carters, like Sean Carter, are the Carters? And you know what? That makes a lot of goddamn sense because the Seminoles were down in Florida. Sean Carter, Jay Z, is Caribbean. The Floridians and Caribbeans did go back and forth to see a Carter. It makes sense, y'all. Some people don't be understanding, but okay. But as you go over, you have them being a slave of the Bowlegs. Now, were they slaves to the Bowlegs? We already know they weren't slaves. And again, you got to think about it. They said that we were slaves to the red men. Well, the Bowlegs are hella, 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 hella black. So they can't be a slave to a red man. That's a chief. That's a chief's family. This is likely, in my opinion, they must have said just put whoever you were under, whoever chief you were under, or something else in that category, knowing full well. Now they didn't write this. Actually, the Carters didn't write this. A actual YT person is the one who filled out the card. They would be asking questions. So whatever question they asked them to put whoever down here bow legs is what they did. And my thing is this: in doing that, you solidified on paper that they were slaves, putting them into the capacity of, even though all slaves are not um, of African descent, and which means all slaves, some slaves can be citizens of the United States. So yeah, slavery can exist among citizens as well as people who are not slaves, who are not citizens. I mean, so other than that, it's just like, um, what was I trying to say? Dismissing the case for that, or them not getting the case just for being slaves, is not just that. It has to do something with that African Negro thing, that freedman thing. It's this freedman thing, in my opinion. It's a combination of this and this. Freedman was given to supposed African people who supposedly were slaves. If you claim to be freed and not a free man, which would be a citizen, if you claim to be a freedman, which is in the dictionaries, we can look that up. It tells you that that is a person freed from bondage. So here you are, you have Seminoles on paper. My thing is, all the people, all the so-called Spaniards had to do during that whole lawsuit, um, in order to prove that they were the ones that are supposed to get the money versus the black people, was to just go in there and show them these cards and be like, look, these people say they're Africans, they claim to be freedmen, they claim to be slaves, they were our slaves, okay? And as slaves, they really aren't citizens to get none of this money coming in. And that's likely what happened. You know what? The only way I'm gonna be able to find that out is I'm gonna have to find. I wonder if I could even find that. Let's see the transcription of the case, $54 million case of the settlement of the Seminoles. Transcription of the Seminole $54 million lawsuit. $45 million Orlando. First, I got to figure out when it happened. When did the Seminole Indians win a lawsuit from the government for millions of dollars? Significant land claim. Let me ask ChatGPT. Because I can't play the video right now, but the lady in that video literally says that it was like a $54 million settlement. Um, I would like to know what the wording was in that motherfucking case. 1950 to 1962 Indian Claims Commission. The decisive legal victory came through the Indian Claims Commission, a federal court created to resolve the land claims. Seminole Tribe versus Florida claim early 1950s. I think that might be it. Payment finalized in 1962. Taking Seminole land, yeah, just without because she said it was. She said in that thing. Here comes the settlement for those lost Florida lands. Let me see if I can find this. Seminole Tribe of Florida case. There's Justice Supreme Court Center. .gov right here. Seminoles of Florida, 142 pages. Ah, okay. Let's do a quick control F. Africa. Africa ain't listed on here, huh? Black. Black Blackstone. 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 A Negro. Um Freedman. Freedom. 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 Not freedmen. As you see, freedmen, there's zero. Is this the case? Seminole Tribe of Florida versus Florida's Internal, the United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, blah, 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 held the 11th Amendment, blah, 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 have in the 5 years since decided union again, blah, 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 the blah, blah, blah. What that may or may not, that's 1996. That's 1996. This is 1996 also for that case, but they said 1956. Didn't they say 1950s? Let me throw that in there. Man, I'm telling you, dude, sometimes it's not just easy to find some shit. But it ain't hard either. 1950. Seminole Nation, Supreme Court, 1942. Seminole Nation, Supreme Court, 1942. 1942. Syllabus, 24 pages. Seminole Nation, Centenary, a claim of the government of the Seminole Nation based on Article 13 of the treaty, whereby the government undertook to provide a certain sum annually for 10 years to be used for a specific purpose, but which in the amount claimed was diverted to the clothing and feeding of refugee Indians held to have been released on Article whatever, whatever. I'm gonna have to find it, y'all. Let me see. Let me just do a quick find on page. Freedmen, not in Freedmen in there. African, nope. Negro, Negro. Robert Johnson is a Negro and an interpreter to the chief. Let's read that. These claims are, so y'all can see. These claims are enormous in amount and show too clearly that the Seminoles are in bad hands. These parties who had these claims, except Harjo, who was who is an assignee, are or have been officials in a nation. Robert Johnson is a Negro and an interpreter to the chief. Chupko is present chief. John Jumper, now we have the Jumper family, was former chief. Now notice they didn't say Jumper was a Negro, but that's pretty funny. Why they labeling one person a Negro and not a Negro? Because um, the dude that I showed y'all earlier with the gun on him, it's the Jumper family. Okay, go back. They didn't label him as a Negro. I wonder why. Um, Maybe the Negro was an African, which he wasn't. Come on now, please. Uh, E.J. Brown is a white man. James Francis, a half breed, is treasurer. Notice how they Notice how they labeling some people's racial mix up or whatever, if you will, and not others. Let's read this again. Robert Johnson is a Negro, the interpreter to the chief. Chupko is the present chief. Nobody said what his shit was. John Jumper was former chief. What the fuck was he? Okay. John Factor, a half breed, is treasurer. Why'd you say that? Okay. E.J. Brown is a white man. Why'd you say that? Why'd you leave out the Jumper family and what they were? You don't want to know. You don't want to know the chief prior to that. It was about as dark as goddamn night. Okay. They don't want you to know. What I'm assuming. Formerly U.S. Indian agent. So this E.J. Brown, who's the white T dude that's there, was a former Indian agent of the Seminole Nation. Indian agents work for the War Department. The War Department becomes the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Since has had the address to procure his admission as a member in the tribe. These men have evidently stood together in the wrong of procuring such allowances and did stand together in refusing to relinquish the claims or a part of them except a deduction for present payment upon claims which did not bear interest. Whatever. That's the only thing that really is talking about Negroes. It was this part right here. We looked up the word black. We looked up, let me look up slave. Does not exist in the document. Is this the right one? I guess not. I'm gonna have to keep looking. That says 1942. The other one says 1950s. So, but as we seen, we looked in two cases so far, and they didn't say nothing about niggas and slaves and Negroes. But there was some case where they was X'd out of the money, and I'm gonna have to find that. But I'm about to end up getting off of here. Your boy been on for 2.5 hours, man. That's not terribly crazy long. You know what I'm saying? Um, what up, Red Line? That's not terribly, terribly wrong, long. Let me pull this up real quick and get that off of there. Put me up. Yeah, that's not terribly, terribly long. But I will say, look, that thing's red. Is it about to lose battery power? I guess, yeah, it sure is. I guess my timing was right. uh, to use this, I hope the audio quality on this is better than my little lapel. In fact, I guess I could have used the lapel, but my lapel, the little clip that clips on, um, is off. And this is cool, but you see what it does to my collared shirt, which I always got open. But it's like, okay, it's kind of messing up my fashion, but it's cool. You know what I mean? So the quality is good from what you can tell. Oh well, y'all can't hear it through it. I appreciate that, but y'all listening to me on TikTok through my bad. Let me look at the chat. Y'all been listening to me through TikTok through my cell phone. So more is excellent explanation of these documents. Appreciate that, Jackson. Treaties are the supreme law of the land for sure, for sure. Unshot time. I'm a Carter. Are you a Carter? I didn't know that, Jackson. Wow. I just pulled that up. Think about that. That's crazy. Mississippi, Alabama. Shame on you. You know, I wanted to do your retwist. I was almost on some Peach McIntyre. What do you mean? Who is this? Oh, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I could do that. Celeste the best. I just said you knew I wanted to. I didn't know I could do that. That's pretty dope. I could show people. So that was Jackson Harlan saying that he shot and he was a Carter. He's a Carter. That's pretty cool, man. Yeah, okay. I'm learning this little app, learning this thing, but Celeste, the best, said she wanted to do my retwist. Jackson said the audio is good on YouTube. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. You loving the new setup? Adventures of Goddess. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing this more. I'm gonna stop being lazy and because I could just be lazy, but on the other one, I could just smoke the whole time, not even have a shirt, get dressed, and nothing, be chilling. Y'all ain't gotta see me. But I want people to see me, especially when I got my retwist. Now, when I ain't got my retwist going, you ain't gonna see me. You ain't gonna see me. How do I remove that? Let's see. Oh, hi. There you go. That's what's up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I appreciate. Look, man, I really appreciate the support. I missed it. What about the Carters? Um, Purple Haze, the Carters. I found a Seminole card. I have a Seminole card that I was looking at, and it shows the Carters to be Seminoles, and they were in Florida at the time, coming from that Florida area. And I said, the Carters are like Sean Carter, like Jay Z, and Jay Z is Caribbean. Makes sense that some Seminole Indians would also have some Caribbeans within them, as many of them have talked about. Many have told me that. Not all Seminoles, but many of them have. It's similar to the Geechees. A lot of people on the coast have gone back and forth with the Caribbeans, and some of them forcefully. Some of it, of course, us just migrating, kicking it. But just to hear that, just to see that, like the Carter family, and it's like, oh yeah, the Carter family, like Sean Carter, like Jay-Z, that makes sense. He's Caribbean. That puts his origin down there by near Florida, you know? So Lil Wayne too. His last name is Carter, ain't it? Damn, I didn't think about that. And think about the migration pattern because New York is full of a lot of Caribbeans too, right? And a lot of that was done during a lot of the movements were done during slavery times as well as after slavery. You know what I'm saying? People have been migrating. So you think about it, yeah, that's Caribbeans up there, some damn sure in Florida, and there's damn sure some here and there in the Louisiana area and stuff like that. I didn't think about it. Look, man, our surnames show the migration patterns. Our ancestral trees show real Indian migration patterns. It really proves the stories. Like mine's shows the stories of the Choctaw and Chickasaw Indians, mostly, most of my family, and the removal, or they're choosing to go to Oklahoma. Some forced, some chose, and some stayed. You know, and it really does show that. I don't have people in my tree that show that stayed, but if I was to like tag in like cousins and other stuff like that, because I only just do the main back line, I probably will find that. Yeah, yeah, I probably will find that. So yeah, I appreciate everybody being here. I do like the quality of this because now that's my 6K, and the quality I got the 50. I kind of like the angle too, but I can't keep like I want my shit always set up. I'm gonna have to throw my wide lens back on it because I gotta move it. I didn't have my wide lens with me, so I had to move it back, put the 50 mil on there. But I do like this angle. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie. At first I was like, oh shit, it's kind of coming at a downward kind of thing or whatever, but looks kind of flattering on me. I ain't gonna lie. Um, so I'm working on my genealogy now. Can you find my tribe? Um, I'll tell you how you find a tribe. What you'll want to do is use this thing called Native Map. Native Map. Let me show you. So when you Google Native Map, you'll get this thing that says Native Lands Map, right? And in here, you want to look at the classic map. I don't like the other map. Uh, and in this classic map, I don't know why it's so zoomed in. Hold on. Why is it so zoomed in? Yeah, I don't know why I did that. In this classic map, you'll come over. I was just gonna say, notice how there's no Indians in India. That's funny. But anyway, over here, uh, you'll find all of these little land blobs, these color blobs. So what you want to do is basically in your genealogy, go back as far as you can go. And when you hit a wall, hit areas, or you see your people are in most areas that go so far back. Let's say your people are all over in this area. Well, pinpoint where they at, and then what cities they were last in, and then try to look for the tribes that are around here. Some of the older names, as well as some of the more prominent ones that are close. And then what I would do after I did that, I would check different roles. So you got the Dawes roles, which that's one, but then you have the Guion Miller Rose, the index application submitted for the Cherokee roll of 1909, or the Guion, or whatever it's pronounced, Guion Miller Rose. That's one. You can screenshot that if you want. You want to look at that. And then you want to look at, yeah, native map. And you want to look at the Gillian Miller Rose. You want to look at the Baker Rolls, East. You can Google this, screenshot that. Eastern Cherokee Indian Reservation Rolls, 1848 to 1970. But they're called the Baker Rolls. And when you go into index Baker Roll, I think that's what you got to click. Or no, you will come down here, and you'll click on these down here. So like, as you can see, Baker Roll, 1924. I'll click on this little what you call it, little camera icon. Log in if you have an ancestry.com account, and here you go. You got the rows, and it's gonna be tedious on this one. You'll literally have to go through and try to find your people in here if you feel like they're in this role. But this is that could be pretty tedious. I'll give you another role. That was the Baker roles. I'll give you some other roles. The Kern Clifton role. You can screenshot this right here. Role of Cherokee Freedman, Kern Clifton role. Okay, and down somewhere down here is a link to it. Mm, digitized copies of these records are for free. So when I click that digitized copies are for free, you see where it took me, and I now am in the roles for for them. There's some Rosses, Matilda Ross, some Browns, some Daniels, some Armistead, Moores, Whitmires, Needham. I might even come across some of y'all's folks, some of y'all surnames. Rowe. Whoops. Hold on, y'all. Won't let me get no closer. Ledman, Morgan, Buffington. But these are certain ones there. I think I got another one or two for those who want that. That was the Kern Clifton. Yeah, this is the Wallace Rolls. I don't have a. This took me straight there. I don't have a. If you ever need the Wallace Rolls, you're just gonna have to hit your boy up, I guess. 'Cause I don't have the what you call it for it. Um, but just to show you, got your names here, right? Indian Rose. You got a Madden or Maddow or something. Maddow, Musgrove, the Musgrove family, the McCoy family, the Mark Chain family, the Matthias family, Miller family, Morger, Markman, whatever. Either way, I have never been through all of these, to be honest. I saved every single one of these roles. I too have to go through some of these and try to see if I can find some of my folks. And then I got a California roll as well. Nigga, you got some McCoys? Patterson, Ross. We saw Ross in the other one too. Rogers, so on and so forth. So yeah, yeah. But yeah, let me about to start getting off of here. Um what happened to my oh there you go. About to start getting off of here, man. Again, I appreciate that McCoy. Oh, that's what's up, Nikki. Yeah, yeah. I forgot which one I was in when I was looking at them, but they might. But it could be in. You could be in multiple different roles too. As some of our families kind of went between different tribes and different things, depending on what was going on or whatever, or married in the tribes or whatever the case may be. But yeah, no, man. So I appreciate him get up here. I appreciate all of y'all for being here, man. Sticking with me this long, man. 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours, man. When I'm just kicking knowledge and this and that, man. It's really I'm really honored to have y'all be here and take in this information. You ain't got to watch. You could be watching niggas do all kind of random shit, man. But y'all here watching a little bit of game with your boy, man, and I don't take that lightly. I really do appreciate y'all, and I'll definitely be back like this as much as possible, as much as I can stop being lazy. So thank you again, and I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good rest of y'all day. Let me see if I can end these.